Hi everyone, welcome to the course Inside Chinese Culture. In this session, we will focus on major Chinese musical instruments with their representative works. First, let's look at the most classical Chinese instrument with over 3,000 years of history, guqin. It is a 7-stringed zither without bridges. It is literally called qin, yet commonly known as guqin. Guqin has the most well-documented history and the best preserved repertoire among all the instruments from China. Guqin has been frequently referred to as the preferred instrument of the sages. For instance, Confucius was a great master of this instrument. To learn to play qin used to be regarded as a very important element for education for the purpose of enriching the heart and elevating human spirit. The 4 arts of the Chinese scholar, qin, qi, shu, hua, were the 4 main academic and artistic accomplishments required of the ancient Chinese scholar gentleman. They are qin, the guqin, qi, the strategic game of Go, shu, Chinese calligraphy, and hua, Chinese painting. Being atop of the 4 traditional arts, qin, qi, shu, hua, the guqin has historically been regarded as one of the most important symbols of Chinese high culture. Unfortunately, only a small number of people in China could play the instrument, because classical musical education of this kind hardly reached the general public. Therefore, a lot of ancient repertoire was lost with the pass away of masters, or the written scores were burned or destroyed in war. However, the guqin repertoire has been much better preserved than all other instruments. Guanglingsan is one of the most important pieces in Chinese music history for guqin. It is closely related to Ji Kang, a celebrated Chinese scholar, musician, and poet from the Three Kingdoms period. When he turned 40, Ji refused to work as an official for the court and was framed and sentenced to death. Before his execution, Ji played Guanglingsan, and since then the piece has become legendary. And it is said that the piece died with Ji, since no one could play it as well as him. High Mountains and Flowing Water is another famous guqin piece. Legend has it that guqin master Bo Ya was playing the instrument in the wilderness. And the woodman Zhong Ziqi understood that his music was describing the high mountains and flowing water. Bo Ya was surprised, and they became very good friends. When Ziqi died later, Bo Ya was devastated for losing the one who could really understand what was in his mind by listening to his music. He broke the instrument and never played it again. The Chinese word 知音 also originated from this story. Guzheng or zheng is a traditional Chinese plucked instrument similar to qin, with strings and movable bridges. Generally, zheng are in 13-string, 16-string, 18-string, or 21-string, of which the 21-string is the most common. According to records, guzheng was popular in the Warring States period. In the traditional way, the thumb, forefinger, and middle finger of the right hand are used to play the zheng, while the left hand controls the tones by pressing the strings. In the modern ways, both hands can be used for playing. Guqin and guzheng have different characteristics and functions. Guqin is meant to entertain oneself, so the music does not need to be loud, elaborate, or fast. However, zheng is designed to play exciting music for others, It is meant to entertain an audience and stir the emotions. With a strong tone color, it produces solid and unrestrained sounds, showing great dynamic power. 汉宫秋月 is a famous 古筝 piece. It means autumn moon of the palace in the Han Dynasty. The music reveals the bitterness and grief of the young maids in the palace and evokes people's sympathy towards the misfortune and loneliness of the girls. Fishermen Singing in the Night is another noted piece of guzheng. It depicts a beautiful scene of sunset where fishermen come back home singing happily on the glittering water. Pipa, or Chinese lute, is known as the king of plucked instrument as well as the king of Chinese traditional music. It is made of wood in pear shape with a fretted fingerboard and is played with plectrum or fingernails. With a history of over 2,000 years in China since Qing Dynasty, pipa was one of the main instruments in Tang Dynasty and played a vital role in Tang music. Today, we can see the popularity of pipa in Tang Dynasty in grotto murals in Dunhuang and stone inscriptions in Yungang. 十面埋伏, or ambushes on all sides, is a representative piece of pipa, based on a historical event. It describes Gaixia War in 202 BC, in which Xiang Yu's army fell into the ambushes of Liu Bang's troops. Xiang Yu was defeated and killed himself, but he was still considered a hero by many people. Flute is a Chinese traditional wind instrument with a history of about 7,000 years, and the bone flutes found in Henan province, as we mentioned earlier, were the earliest Chinese flutes. It is one of the key representative instruments of China. It is generally made of bamboo for its best sound effects. With great expressions and playing skills, a flute can play music in all kinds of styles, express rich emotions. It can imitate various sounds from the nature, such as the bird's twitter and the sound of water. Spring in Xiangjiang is a famous flute melody written in 1976 by Ning Baosheng, the celebrated flute player. This melody depicts the fabulous scene of Xiangjiang banks when spring comes, representing a joyous scene with green water and blue haze. It reflects Xiangjiang people's passion and determination of building their homeland and embracing a bright future. Erhu is one of the best-known Chinese traditional musical instruments, which were started in Tang Dynasty. It was known as Chinese violin or Chinese two-stringed fiddle. Erhu has only two strings, a thick one and a thin one, with its bow hairs fixed between the strings. The tones of erhu in middle and high range are close to people's voice that can express almost every human emotion. Therefore, its music is usually very expressive and touching, especially when you feel down and blue. It started as an accompaniment instrument in folk performances until 1920s, when erhu became a solo instrument on stage. During the same period, a famous blind erhu player named A Bing became the image of erhu with his masterpiece, The Moon Over a Fountain. This erhu piece tells the story of a blind artist who suffered frustration and bitterness in his life, from which the audience can feel deep sorrow and great pain of life. While most famous erhu pieces involve expression of painful emotions such as loneliness, homesickness, life difficulties, sufferings, etc., horse racing is a joyous erhu masterpiece. Composed by Huang Haihuai, this music made its debut on the 4th Spring of Shanghai erhu solo contest in 1964 and soon became famous nationwide. describes the horse racing event in traditional Mongolia festival, with erhus mimic of the horses neighing when they reach the finish of the race. The audience can visualize horses competing in the racing field. Yangqin, or Chinese hammered dulcimer, is an instrument combining percussion instrument with stringed instrument. It originated in the ancient Middle East countries before the Middle Ages and was introduced into China in Ming Dynasty from Persia, present-day Iran, and then was remade later to be yangqin by Chinese folk musicians. The sound of yangqin is of distinctive features, which is bright in tone and grand in volume. It was originally played as an accompaniment instrument and gradually developed to be a solo instrument. 2 hammers are used to play yangqin, which are made of bamboo with half-covered rubber. With a combination of hardness and softness, it has very expressive force. Kongho is another ancient Chinese harp. The Wo Kongho, or horizontal Kongho, was first mentioned in written texts in the spring and autumn period. It later evolved into the 6-stringed zither of Korea, xianqin. The Shu Kongho, or vertical Kongho, first appeared in the Eastern Han Dynasty. Kongho playing was most prevalent in the Sui and Tang dynasties. It was generally played in rites and ceremonies and gradually prevailed among the ordinary people. Then it became extinct sometimes in the Ming Dynasty. It has been revived in the 20th century as a double-bridge harp. The modern version of the instrument does not resemble the ancient one, and its shape is similar to Western concert harps. The main feature that distinguishes the contemporary kongho from the Western harp is that the modern kongho's strings are folded over to make 2 rows, which enable players to use advanced playing techniques such as vibrato and bending tones. Paired strings on opposite sides of the instrument are tuned to the same note. The 2 rows of strings also make it suitable for playing swift rhythms and overtones. Okay, now you know these major Chinese traditional musical instruments, and you can know more about other traditional instruments by yourselves. That is all for this session.